Alright guys, so in this video we're checking out the all-new Zeus35 all-in-one flight controller from HGLRC. This is the updated version of the original Zeus that has been around for a couple of years now. They're still selling this. This is what it looks like here. And obviously the board is a different size and dimensions. I'll show you that here in a second. There are some significant differences, obviously, between the old one and the new one, but I think the primary main difference is that the ESCs are 35 amps bursting to 40 amps on this one here, and it goes up to 6S, whereas the old one was like, I think 3S up to 15 amps and 4S up to 13 amps, I believe, something like that, and only up to 4S max. And so that that was a major limitation of that board, because everyone wanted to put these into some bigger quads, but wasn't able to because they're limited by the motors and stuff. But let's just go over what you can get here real quick. So you get an XT60 connector here, and you get a capacitor. So you get two capacitors. They're doing like the two different build type scenarios. So you get this one here, it's stuck to this foam. This is a 1000 microfarad 35 volt capacitor, and then the smaller one here, this one is a 220 microfarad 35 volt capacitor. So you're probably only going to need the capacitors on 6S, but just to be safe, I would use them on lower voltages like 4S. You get a XT30 as well, and you do get these silicon grommets because the holes are a different size. So on the old board it was an M2 hole, and on the new board it's an M3 hole, and you can use the grommets to downsize to an M2 screw, and also will act as vibration dampening. But if you're using an M3 mount, you won't be able to use the vibration dampening. You'll have to come up with some other way to dampen the vibrations. Alright, so what's the rest of the stuff in the box? You get the wires for the XT60. I think this is like 14 gauge wires, pretty aggressive and pretty big. And you get a instruction manual. Okay, so here's a manual, and they have this in print form here in the box, which is nice. You don't have to print it out. This diagram here is also on the product page online, along with all the specs and everything here. This does come with an MPU 6000 gyro. It's got a 5 volt 2 amp AC, 16 megabytes of black box data. That's also the same as on the old one. This new one only comes with 2 UARTs. So UART1 is going to be for your smart audio VTX, and UART2, which is not inverted, is going to work for S+, iBus, Spectrum, Crossfire, and FreeSky R9M. So yeah, they're electing to put all the receiver stuff on UART2. So they show here the various receivers and then how to wire them up on the various pads here. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a look at the board. This is the way the board should be oriented. So you'll have motor 1 over here, and your motor pads here, and then motor 2 over here. 3 is going to be over here, and motor 4 is going to be over here. Your battery leads are going to be down here on the bottom. You have battery, voltage, and ground. I believe the current sensor is on this side over here, and that's the bottom side. And I believe this is the top of the board. You have your boot button here, and then all of your pads are labeled nicely: battery, ground, VTX 5 volts, TX1 ground, 5 volts of camera. So this is going to be all your camera, video transmitter, and smart audio in here. So they've broken out TX1 on this side here for your smart audio, but if you want to use RX1, for example, on this side, if you don't want to use smart audio, say if you want to use GPS instead, your RX1 is going to be on the other side here, and then you have all the stuff on this side is going to be for your receivers. You have your UART2 connections here, 3 volts. You have ground, 5 volts, and another again buzzer here, and LED connections on all this side of the board. So the ESCs on here are VLLE S ESCs, and they should work with all the new RPM filter firmware that's out there. I believe these are the H series, not the L series. So if you're worrying about that, that should work. This has an F4 processor on here. It's using one of those STM32 targets, so you'll have to make sure you get the files from HGLRC if you're going to be reflashing it. But this does come with the latest 4.11 firmware as of the recording of this video, so you should be good to go on that. Now moving over to the other side of the board here, we've got your current sensor, your OSD chip, You got your voltage regulators, and you have your 16 megabytes of black box data. So if you want to compare like the thickness of the boards, old versus the new, you can see that the newer board's much thicker. It's supposed to be like 8 layers of PCB. And yeah, obviously you're going to need that for 35 amps versus only 15 amps max on the old board. Alright, so comparing the weights of the old to the new, so the old board's at 6 and 6.6 grams, and the new board is coming in at 9.73 grams, so quite a bit more. Alright, so comparing the dimensions here, it's about 33.4, including the USB port, and the width. Length is about 40.74, and the board thickness is roughly 4.4 millimeters. Anyway, so this should be pretty useful for a lot of builds that you want to kind of like keep your stack really low profile, or if, for example, if you want to use it on, say, like a stack that's going to have the Caddx Vista on there, with in terms of like saving space in your stack, you could go to this, which would get rid of basically turn 2 boards into 1 board, and then you could use the Caddx Vista on top of that, since it's also a 20 by 20 mount, and you could have a nice little digital FPV system there in a, say, like a 2.5 inch or 3 inch micro, maybe even something smaller. Really kind of depends on what you're kind of going for, but obviously, combining 2 boards into 1 will definitely save a lot of space in your stack and give you a lot of options for the type of builds you want to put together. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be putting this in. If you guys have any suggestions on what might be good to put this in, let me know in the comments below. That's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.